Here are my way too early Super Bowl predictions. Alright, so today is August 18th. Currently, I don't even know if this is true, but currently the Super Bowl is scheduled to be played February, probably the first couple of days of February around there. And obviously, the NFL season is starting a little bit later this year on September 10th. Usually it's around, the first week of September, but it's on pace. But obviously, there's been the player opt-outs, there's been the coronavirus, there's been no preseason, there's only been training camp so far. So the whole season is going to look kind of weird. What if I told you the Super Bowl predictions? I think I have really solid predictions. So obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, let's talk about them first. I think there are a solid amount of teams that could represent each NFC and AFC conference. And honestly, let's start with the Chiefs, no doubt about it. The Chiefs are basically the new Patriots. If you predicted the Patriots to be in the Super Bowl in the beginning of a year, any year, and they were, congrats. Really wasn't that hard because the Chiefs are the new Patriots. They have a really good coach, Andy Reid. They have probably, in my opinion, the best player in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. A stacked offense with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So we will see. This team's offense, obviously we know it's stacked. Their defense was looking better at the end of the season with Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones back. This team is looking nasty. Wouldn't be surprised if it's in the Super Bowl. And they're definitely one of the highest ranked teams on my list to make the Super Bowl next year. But let's talk about the rest of the AFC teams. Obviously, we have Baltimore. The freaking Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. So the Ravens, I'm not a big fan of the Ravens personally. I don't like the Ravens and I never will. And don't take this personally if you're a Ravens fan. I'm not even being biased against them. But you saw what happened to Lamar Jackson in the playoffs last year. The Titans destroyed him. I don't think it's because the Ravens underestimated the Titans. I think it's because Lamar Jackson is getting too predictable as a quarterback. Obviously, they are known to have a good defense every year. They probably have a top 5 defense once again. And Lamar Jackson will probably carry this team to a very, very good record. Obviously make the playoffs. But at the same time, I think Lamar Jackson is going to become too predictable. I believe he dominated last year because he's a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent where you don't really see a quarterback that fast who can easily juke a defender and score touchdowns just by running the football. And that is definitely a big problem for teams last year. But at the same time, for upcoming years, I believe Lamar Jackson's predictability is just going to become too easy for teams to figure him out. Once-in-a-lifetime talent, like I said, but at the same time, the tricks run out. Unless Lamar Jackson comes up with new tricks in the book, I don't see this team winning any Super Bowls. But at the same time, like I said, I don't like the Ravens, but I think the Ravens probably should represent the AFC in the AFC Championship game. But will they win it? We'll see. I think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have one shot at winning the Super Bowl, and that is this year. The upcoming years, I just think Lamar is going to become too predictable, and that's the end of that. But let's continue. So, obviously, another team in the AFC that I think is going to be really good is the Tennessee Titans. So, the Tennessee Titans were in the AFC Championship game. They were, dominating at the end of the season with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. Definitely, no one saw that coming when the season started, but it did. And many people are scared to play the Titans now. I believe the Titans have a pretty solid schedule. I don't remember if they play the Packers or the Vikings at home or away, but I'm pretty sure those are road games. Besides that, the Titans schedule is pretty easy. And I think they could get a solid amount of wins next season, win the AFC South, and become a threat in the playoffs once again with Derrick Henry. But we did see this in the AFC Championship game last year. Just like with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry became too predictable, and all the Chiefs had to do was stop him, and they won the game. And that is a very important thing to know about the Titans. If Derrick Henry is not having a good game, either it's the offense, either are the Titans, and the Titans will most likely lose that game. So if Derrick Henry somehow bypasses that logic, the Titans are a solid team to win the Super Bowl next year. And the last team in the AFC that I think is probably really good next year and very underestimated are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just come on, think about it. They had the best defense in the NFL last year. I don't know if you think it's good or not, but I think it's the best in the NFL this year too. I think it's better than the Chargers, better than the Ravens, better than the 49ers. They have some of the most talented players in the NFL on their defense. TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward, debatably freaking Devin Bush if he steps up at a middle linebacker. Bud Dupree's a threat. So this defense is obviously stacked. No, you can't deny that fact. And it won them many games last year, leading them to an 8-8 record. It was no help to the offense. This team went 8-8 just because of their defense. Obviously, Big Ben missed basically the entire season last year. And since then, he has become healthier. He said his arm is feeling fine. He's lost weight. And I think this is going to be the most agile Big Ben we've seen since his rookie years. So we will see about that. But you take one of the nastiest, dirtiest, best defenses in the NFL, combine it with Big Ben, one of, the biggest veterans in the NFL, 2-time Super Bowl champ. He knows how to win, never had a losing season basically. You combine it with him. You combine an upcoming Deontay Johnson, a wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, a wide receiver, Eric Ebron, a tight end monster in the red zone when Andrew Luck was his QB, Vance McDonald, a beast. The only problem with this team is a running back situation. We might see Anthony McFarland step up, become the starter within the next 3 years. But if James Conner stays healthy, this team is definitely a threat and can win the Super Bowl. But let's talk about the NFC. So there are many teams in the NFC that I think are good. But I only think there are 3 teams that actually have a shot at representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. 2 of them from the same division. I bet you can guess which ones they are. So let's start with those 2 teams. Obviously, the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints have one of the best teams in the NFL. They have one of the best offenses in the NFL. Emmanuel Sanders as your backup wide receiver, looking nasty. Obviously, Michael Thomas is debatably a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. I don't think he's the best. You put Julio Jones, you put breaking DeAndre Hopkins with Drew Brees in that offense. What do you expect to happen? Michael Thomas, big overrated, but at the same time, he's still a beast. Still leads the league in receptions every season. And I expect this team to be really good on offense. Don't even have to elaborate. You know it's true. Their defense, pretty solid too. It's not the best, not the worst. The problem with the Saints, though, is that they play the Vikings in the playoffs, and they lose every time. It's kind of weird to think about. And this could be a big problem if they play the Vikings again. Like, I'm not even joking. But the problem is that their rival in their division, the Buccaneers, could be a threat to them in the playoffs. And obviously, it's because of Tom Brady. But obviously, the Buccaneers, they have Tom Brady, they have Gronkowski, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, LaShawn McCoy, they picked him up. Their offense is debatably better than the Saints' offense. And we're just going to have to see what happens because these 2 teams' offenses are stacked. Buccaneers' defense could be a problem for them. But we did see last year, they were on the field so much more than their offense. Obviously, because Jameis Winston, interception every game. This defense probably got tired. It didn't show its true potential. But with Tom Brady on the field, who literally could have 7-minute drives every game, I bet this defense, becomes better. Shaquille Barrett, definitely one of the best players on this team. Nakama Sue, sorry if I botched that name, but I probably did. This defense ain't bad. It's not the worst. It's not the best, but still, this team's offense is good enough to win at games, good enough to play in the Super Bowl. Even if this team doesn't win their division and they get the 5th seed, they'll probably play the worst 4th seed, probably like the Eagles or the Cowboys. And guess what? They're playing the Saints if they're the number 1 seed. It's not even a problem. I think the Buccaneers could win the Super Bowl next year. But the last team I want to talk about in the NFC, the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, the Seattle Seahawks. Notable mentions in the 49ers who were in the Super Bowl last year, but I believe the 49ers aren't going to be in the Super Bowl this year. I just don't see it. Their defense, obviously, it's really good, but at the same time, I believe this offense with the injury of Deebo Samuel, I believe this offense could be struggling beginning of the season. When he returns, probably not a problem. But they did have a couple of lucky games last year. They did lose Matt Breida, one of their starting running backs. And I think this offense could struggle next year and not be as good as it was last year. But we'll see. I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to beat the 49ers for their division title. And that's why I'm going to talk about the Seahawks instead of the 49ers. So the Seattle Seahawks, they, in my opinion, should be the team to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl next year. And no disrespect for the other teams in the NFC, I just think the Seahawks are going to have that kind of year. And I say this because their defense is a lot better, which could have been problems for them last year. And their offense is already really good. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Apparently a top 2 player in the NFL, Russell Wilson. Obviously, this dude's a beast, a monster. Never had a losing season. Has always made the playoffs. Don't expect him to miss the playoffs this year. They have Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, wide receivers, Chris Carson as a running back. This offense is basically stacked. And it's going to score high next year. But the problem was, last year, their defense wasn't good enough to clutch up against the best teams in the NFL. But what happened? They traded for one of the best safeties in the NFL, Jamal Adams. And that's a big rip for every other team in the NFC. So obviously, the NFC West is stacked. The Seahawks are good, 49ers are good, Cardinals are good, Rams are decent. So what does this mean? It means the Seahawks are going to have hard competition the entire year. And whoever wins that division, I think, is probably the best team in the NFC because it's such hard competition all year round. So I believe Seahawks will win that division with the addition of Jamal Adams as strong safety, one of the best players in the NFL. This team's going to look really good. Obviously, Jadeveon Clowney, that is a problem because he is still a free agent. And Seahawks, I don't even think they're going to be signing him again because they got Jamal Adams. So it could be, a big rip right there. But this defense is still elite. The Seahawks offense is still elite. So let's pick 2 teams to play in the Super Bowl. Let's actually start with the AFC and NFC championship games. So the NFC championship game, I don't really care about the seeds right now, but I believe the Seahawks are going to be a team playing in the NFC championship game. And I actually do think the Buccaneers are going to be the other team playing in the NFC championship game. I believe the Seattle Seahawks will probably have a higher seed than them, probably be hosting this game, and win the NFC championship to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Along with the AFC, I believe, without a doubt, I don't even want to say this, but if the Chiefs aren't in the Super Bowl again, there's probably something wrong with you. If you don't believe me, there's something wrong with you. The Chiefs definitely should represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And I'm not going to lie, I think the Steelers have a shot. And I'm going to be biased right there. I think the Steelers have a shot at being the Super Bowl. But if I'm saying that they're going to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, I'm delusional. So obviously, the Chiefs are going to host the AFC Championship game. Doesn't matter who they play. They're probably most likely going to be in the Super Bowl again. No doubt about it. There's no one stopping them this year. And the Super Bowl winner, the Kansas City Chiefs versus Seattle Seahawks. It's a really good answer. It's a really good question. I don't know. But if I were to pick a team, I honestly want to pick the Seattle Seahawks to win the Super Bowl next year. I just believe it's that kind of season for the Seahawks. Even though they have a good team already, I just think it's going to be a lot better than you think it's going to be. It's going to be really good. Seattle is going to mess up everybody next year. So, like I said before, I am a big Steelers fan. I I think they could compete with the best of the best teams with that defense and Big Ben back. But saying that, I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl. It's no bias right there. I just think they're going to have a good season next year. Outcompete everybody. So, what do you think? Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? I believe it's going to be the Seahawks over the Chiefs. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Adios.